Hey, Dennis.
Not Dennis, it's Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
There we go. Admit, admit. Okay, where are you? Nope, where'd he go?
Just so you know, I was unable to get into the meeting until just now.
Yes, because I just let you in.
Yeah. No, I mean, it said that the meeting had not yet started. So maybe
That's
there.
correct. That's
It
correct. The
said
meeting
it hadn't
has
started
started.
because it hadn't started.
It hadn't started because it hadn't started.
Okay, I didn't know if it was a link or not.
No,
No,
now
it
it's
hadn't
starting
started.
now.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Let me let more people in. David Mark, I'm making you a co-host.
Sure.
There's one person that would like to speak during public comment.
Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a quorum. We will start. I will turn on the recording.
It's already recording.
Okay. So welcome to the advisory committee meeting of May 7th, 2025. I will share the agenda with people. We will start off with public comment. If you want to comment, put your name in the chat so David Mark can call on you. After that, we'll be starting with a fire department appropriations transfer request of $20,000. Moving on from that, the warrant article 21, the creation of a commission on thriving children and youth, and ending with warrant article 30, a resolution regarding the work of the Moderators Committee on Forms of Government. Get rid of this. Okay. David Mark, we can start public comment. Why don't you
Okay.
call?
We have one right now, Jonathan Golden.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the chair and to the advisory committee for the opportunity to make public comment. Jonathan Golden, town meeting member in precinct 11. The advisory committee has made a very important role in making us aware of issues that relate to the financing of the schools and the need for audit and accountability. And it's good that the voters of Brookline agreed with that yesterday and who they chose for school committee. I want to thank you for your leadership in that work. I want to bring to your attention one decision that was made in the budget just passed, and I understand you passed it, and I'm not making this comment to ask for anything to be changed this year, but for future consideration, as well as one of the warrant articles you'll be voting on tonight, which is warrant article 21, you may be considering tonight. It's my understanding that one of the schools in Brookline will no longer have a vice principal and will be transferred to another school. And I want to talk about why that has both financial consequences for the town of Brookline as well as consequences for the students. To give you an example, as a parent at the Driscoll School, where my son is a fifth grader, I have seen a turnover of multiple principals over many, many years. Every year, every other year happen. And we know that we've lost so much good leadership in the school. It took years for Driscoll to get a second principal for a K-8 school. And people often ask the question, why are we losing principals left and right? And the answer is, you can get higher pay in other districts to run a K-5 school than a K-8, and there isn't the vice principal support. Whichever school is ultimately determined, and that's up to the superintendent. And again, I know the budget's passed. I do want to have for the advisory committee's consideration in their continued deliberations with the school committee, a new school committee, and now a new interim superintendent, future superintendent, to ask the questions about this, both financially and for students. What are the consequences of a school losing a vice principal? What does it look like when some schools have 3 vice principals and others have 1? And I finally want to tie that to Warrant Article 21, which you'll be looking at tonight, about the mental health of students. Vice principals are the front line to that for students. I am thrilled about and I understand I was in the subcommittee earlier. I'm happy to see the resolution that's come before you. I think CTOS did good work to make a resolution. I think there's a lot of buy-in on all the departments. I really appreciate the cooperation. So I want to put that on the record, again, to change nothing for this year, but to really think about the financial and other consequences when a vice principal is taken out of the school system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. David, Mark, anyone else?
Not for public comment.
Fabulous. So we will move on to the departmental transfer. Charlie, are you or the chief going to start us out here?
I don't mind starting off and then letting the chief comment if he wants to. That sounds good, chief. Great. Okay. Thank you, Harry. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Charlie Young, the Assistant Town Administrator for Finance here in Brookline. One of the things I work on is the operating budgets, and I work with the department heads on their utilities budgets. So we're here tonight to request an appropriations transfer, which ordinarily would only require select board approval, but certain transfers like out of capital accounts additionally require us to come to the advisory committee and get their approval as well. So we're here tonight because we have a projected natural gas budget deficit in the fire department of about $20,000 for FY25. And thankfully, the chief has identified some places in his budget, other than the reserve fund, that we can pull from to backfill that $20,000. So a little background on this. Folks who were here last year may remember that as part of the reserve fund transfer we did at the end of the year for fire overtime, we also needed to backfill this same natural gas deficit. And at the time, we attributed that $20,000 gap to a rise in prices, which we'd seen across departments, and that made sense. So we came asking for a reserve fund transfer, said we'd look into it further, and we plan to build it into FY26. So this is built into the FY26 budget. You'll notice there's a $20,000 to $30,000 increase. I think it's $30,000 to fire utilities, and that is capturing this gap. The only problem there was that after we set the budget, we realized this was just a matter of how the bills are getting paid. So the fire department has been paying a bill for natural gas supply that includes the police department, which ordinarily would get billed and paid there. Now we're here tonight essentially saying we've realized that's how things have been working, thanks to a new public safety business manager who's been very great to work with. And so we're saying, all right, well, that's how we've been paying the bills. That's how they were paid this year. We're going to backfill this deficit, and then we can look to correct that going forward. And the easiest way to do that would be to keep paying the bills this way because it's built into the budget next year, and then correct in FY27. So that's just an explanation for why the gap is there. And we're looking for your approval on this transfer out of leased computer equipment and public safety equipment. Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the surplus in leased computer equipment is due to buying some machines that were on lease. And we're actually expecting to have that cost come back here in a year very soon. So we haven't taken that money out of the fire capital budget giving them the flexibility to do things like this in the meantime until those devices need to be purchased again. So, Chief Sullivan, if you want to add anything, I think that sums it up.
Yeah, no, thank you, Charlie. Just quickly, the leased computer equipment it wasn't as a result of buying but unfortunately, the previous business manager had paid the lease ahead of time. And so instead of having it paid over a 4-year period, he paid it all at once. So we're realizing a savings for the years coming out, but that will end this year. And the $7,000 from the public safety equipment is due to the fact that we had 2 rounds of state equipment grants that the state was, generous enough to be able to put out for the fire departments, and we were awarded twice this year, and we're able to offset some costs into the state grant in that we would normally see in our equipment capital account, therefore giving us a little bit of room to be able to move that $7,000.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from the advisory committee?
Nobody has put their name in the chat, but I'll give a quick one here. You said, Charlie, that the natural gas payment for the fire department also includes the police department as well.
That's why this $20,000 gap came up. Yep.
Right. So is this coming from the police department side or the fire department side?
No, it's coming from fire, and I can understand why you'd ask that question. So the police department does have a corresponding surplus in that account, but I'm expecting them to come forward shortly with a reserve fund transfer request, not only for their personnel budget, the same as fire this year, but also we think for non-personnel as well. And so we're thinking we're gonna keep that capacity in police in case they need it to help resolve their issue. And so we're here today to resolve this one within the fire department. So yeah, it's a good question. The police department bill has been getting paid in fire. That's why we had a deficit last year. That's why we have a deficit this year. We have a new public safety business manager, and we're going to shift it back to police, but we're not going to do that now. We'll do that in a future year when we can do it, without causing any issues. So
That was very helpful. Thank you. Still nobody in the chat, Harry.
Okay, so Charlie, help me here. What I have, let me find it, is a favorable action on fire department appropriations transfer request of 20 grand from accounts. First, 13,000 from account with a number, leased computer equipment, to an account called natural gas, and then 7,000 from an account called public safety equipment to an account called natural gas to help bridge a projected budget shortfall in the utilities category of the fire department FY25 budget. Is that correct?
that's right.
Would somebody like to move that?
I'll move it.
Would somebody like to second that?
I'll second.
Thank you so much. I will share my screen. We will go to a vote. Let's try this again. All righty. Let's see now. Michael Berger. Michael Berger?
No, I don't think he's here.
Okay. Ben Birnbaum.
Yes.
Harry Boers.
Yes.
I'm having some problems. Hold on. Cliff
Yeah, right, Harry.
Brown.
Yes.
Anthony Buono.
Yes.
John Doggett.
Yes.
Catherine Florio.
Yes.
David Mark,
Yes.
Neil Gordon,
Yes.
Susan Granoff,
Yes.
Perry Grossman,
Yes.
Elisa Jonas. Don't think she's here. Janice had to leave. Alec Lebovitz,
Yes.
Carol Levin.
Don't see her.
She's not here. Pam Lodish,
Yes.
Jocelyn Murphy,
Yes.
Danelle O'Neill,
Yes.
Linda Olson Pelkey.
Yes.
Marcus is not here. Fran Perler,
Yes.
David Pollock,
Yes.
Lee Selwyn is not here. Christine Westfall.
Yes.
So by a vote of 17 to 0, we have passed this. Stop share.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Chief. Thank you, Charlie.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, you too. So the next thing on the agenda is a report on warrant Article 21 regarding the Commission on Thriving Youth and Children. Who's taking this?
Mr. Birnbaum.
Mr. Birnbaum. Ben, take it away.
Mr. Birnbaum, as you can see, is somewhat handicapped this evening. I will need some help from some of my colleagues. The warrant Article 21 ran into some problems with us, and one of the problems it seems to have run into is that we don't have the CTONS version of it posted, I've been told just a moment ago. Can we get that up somewhere? Alec, do you have that available? Okay.
Let me, Alec, let me make you a co-host.
That is posted with the agenda.
Well,
packet.
find things hard to see, so I've been told it's not been posted. If it is, very good, thank you.
Alec can certainly share it if he has it.
And it's quite brief, so I can share the whole resolution.
Great.
If I'm the co-host.
You've been, well, I thought you had. Hold on, let me try that again. Make co-host. Yes. You are now a co-host.
Thank you, Harry.
So we began with warrant Article 21 almost at the same time CTONS began. They got a jump on it, and we had some issues with the proposal when it was a warrant article and not a resolution. One of the issues, well, let me say what it was. The notion, the idea, it was an idea, not a notion, and a very serious idea. It was to bring together various organizations, offices, like the school system and the libraries and the health department and so on, with outside organizations as well. That is outside the town's purview, private organizations, to put together a unified, here's where I wish I had my right eye, a unified way of treating children and youth in the town of Brookline. That is to address such things as lack of the connections between moving from one level in school to another, other kinds of health-related matters, and the number of students, I think, which we all have read about in various newspapers and magazines and so on, number of young people between the ages, well, from young to 18, who have developed depression or a lack of happiness. Let's put it that way. So that was the virtuous position of the folks who put warrant Article 21 together, the petitioners, and The problem was there were some practical matters which we tripped over. That is our subcommittee tripped over, and other practical matters tripped over by CTONS. I'll just mention the matters we tripped over. One was expense. You were going to bring together, the proposal would bring together 9 individuals representing various organizations within the town and also within town government and also within the town. And clearly that was going to end up costing some money. It could not, any proposals coming out of that group would have cost some money. The other problem was somewhat technical. The warrant article mentioned children and youth of Brookline, and it did not seem to carry over to 500 other children and youth within Brookline who were not residents of Brookline, but who attended Brookline schools for one reason or another. And finally, there was a third matter, which was coherence. If you had a group of organizations you're trying to get together once a month who are essentially free to work on their own, you have a problem with a sort of musical chairs problem. Who's in charge, who's paying, who's leaving, who's not showing up. So the virtues were strong. That is to say, to improve the ability of youth and children in the town of Brookline to mature and to be well, not simply well educated, but well formed, as they say in some parts of theology. So we backed off in our hearing, which is to say we just said we couldn't go forward with this. And the CTONS at that time, led by Dick Benka, was already working on a proposition that would take the place of the warrant article. That is this resolution, which I hope at this point you can see. I say that with some irony since I can't. But so we reviewed that resolution this afternoon, just prior to this meeting, and we found it quite striking and quite good. We unanimously we voted for it unanimously, and the petitioners also agreed that it suited them well. The difference, there are 3 differences here. One is this would have a leader in Sigal Reese and the Health and Human Services Department, which in and of itself had been proposing and was working on a similar program that was going to come to the light in fiscal 26. I'm sure Sigal is here, can tell us something about it. And others in the town, including the town administrator, also felt that this would work, this would be coherent, if this was a commission or a committee that was guided by the town and by a person in the town, namely Sigal, who would be in charge. The virtues remain the same. The virtues are, let's make sure that every child and youth in Brookline who we could possibly reach, whether through athletics, through the arts, through school, through the library, anybody we could reach by working together as opposed to working singly or in small groups, that we would reach them, that we would improve the lives of young people in Brookline, which is an estimable proposition. And so we also found that the CTONS draft proposition resolution did respond to the issues that had troubled us, that is to say, the subcommittee, when we first looked at the warrant article, when it was proposed as a bylaw. So that's where we are. We voted unanimously. I believe it was 4-0, or may have been 5-0. I forget, Cliff, what was it?
It was 5-0 to
5-0.
1. There was one abstention.
I'm sorry, one abstention. And so we bring it to you with our heartfelt, well, we believe it's a good idea. And I guess we are ready to move on from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Sigal, is there anything you'd like to add since this is being sort of put in your lap?
Hi, thank you. Sigal Reese, Director of Public Health and Human Services. Yeah, no, I think what this does is it aligns it with the work that we are doing with the Community Health Improvement Plan, which was really convening a lot of the same agencies. And what I think this resolution will give me is to make sure we continue to have that youth focus in some of the strategies that we're implementing as part of that plan. And I keep emphasizing, and he has just confirmed, Alec will be on that steering committee too, as we're gathering that up to move towards implementation. So I'm sure he will make sure we continue to follow this resolution and ensure that, you know, we are looking at the, like it says, well-being of all Brookline children from birth to age 18.
Thank you. Alec, is there something you or the other petitioners might wish to add at this point in time?
Just very briefly, I'd like to thank CTONS and in particular Dick Binka for being a very willing and generous partner in crafting this. And as Ben mentioned, the petitioners support the CTONS substitute motion. We intend to offer that as our main motion. And I hope you'll join the subcommittee in voting favorable action. Thank you.
Thank you. David Mark, let's open it up.
Nobody's in the chat yet.
Okay, we'll give them a moment.
Linda.
Thanks, David Mark. I guess my question would be to Sigal, and that is just to, I'm trying to understand a little bit more on the background of the Children's Community Health Improvement Plan, or I'm sorry, I'm naming it wrong, Community Health Improvement Plan. And I'm familiar with it in the past where it had been more of a kind of data dive on what the health indicators were in the town. So I'm less familiar with this iteration of the work. So I'm just curious, you know, what it encompassed, what it's telling you, and how you see this resolution implementing that.
Sure. So let me back up then and give a little of the history. So it was about a 2.5-year process where we started out with the community health assessment, which is just as you described, a really big data dive looking at federal, state, and local data, including survey data, focus groups, key informant interviews. We went through a whole year-round process where we gathered a lot of data and identified what were the key topics in Brookline that affects community health, that affects public health. And then year 2, I should say this was a 2-year ARPA-funded project. And then year 2, we went, and I keep talking about it as like narrowing the priorities. We looked at what came, you know, all the data in the assessment, and then evaluated with a group of about 40 representatives from different community groups. So again, talking about this process of convening community groups, we did that throughout the whole the assessment and the planning process. And we identified 4 priority areas. Those 4 priorities are financial security, access to social and health services, housing affordability, and mental and behavioral health. So very broad topics. And then we went through another 1.5 years where we narrowed that down with goals, objectives, and strategies. And now we're at the cusp of implementation. So it's a very broad report. It's really a strategic plan for a health department. And I think in the past, the department has done sort of smaller assessments related around certain strategies, but hasn't really taken the next step, which is actually the improvement plan. So we have an actionable plan with specific strategies and action steps we're going to be taking, and also a monitoring and evaluation plan to ensure we're doing that. And it's all posted on our website. And like I said, we're just moving into implementation now with reforming the steering committee and developing working groups under each of those 4 priority areas.
So is the steering committee an ongoing entity or?
Yeah, that is the hope. I mean, it's a 5-year plan. And there are many, as you can imagine, under those 4 priority areas, there are many, I think within each of those, there are specific strategies targeted towards youth. And again, convening those specific organizations listed in the original warrant article are all implementers and consultants and take on various roles depending on which strategy. I can sort of get into a few examples because I like concrete things, trying to understand what's in the plan. So there's some collaboration with Trusted Early Learners with some of the work they're doing around early education and bringing together daycares and providing support and education and training. There's the Wait Till 8th, which is a program that the schools are very interested in implementing about social media and mental health and waiting till 8th grade to get those phones. There's a youth work program under the financial security priority to work with youth around summer jobs and a lot of the great work that Steps to Success is doing. And then also there's a lot of work that we do within the department around substance use prevention and reformalizing that, the substance use prevention work, sort of revitalizing that. And again, a lot of that is about convening different partners to address mental health and substance use with youth. So those are just a few examples of strategies that are really outlined in the health improvement plan.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks a lot. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
Sure.
There's nobody else in the chat, but I'll ask a question here.
Before you ask a question, Alec, could you stop sharing so we can sort of get the people back? Thank you.
Okay. Sigal, is there anything in the language of this resolution that would be different from what you're already doing? Do you have to pivot to do something else or add some new thing that you're not doing already? Because it sounds like you're already doing all of this.
Yeah, for the most part, I think, I think it will also give us, there's a lot of voices in the room and a lot of competing priorities.
Mhm.
So I think having a resolution that says we should be focused on, well-being of 0 to 18 is helpful. It gives us some direction. Because we're going to continue through, years 2, 3, 4, and 5. The steering committee is really going to need to continue to set those priorities and respond to the changing environments that we're always living in and what we're going to be able to do and really setting those priorities. It's really about priority setting.
All right, thank you. That's it, Harry.
That's it. Okay. Ben, do you or Cliff wish to make a motion on behalf of the subcommittee?
Sure, I'll do it. The subcommittee recommends favorable action on Article 21 as amended by CTONS.
Okay. Let me just change this a bit. As amended by CTO and S. All righty. Let's go down here. Cap lock, yes. Ben Birnbaum.
Yes.
Can I just ask a procedural question? Sorry. The in the document that was shared in the whereases, it talks about a bylaw. So that'll get cleaned up in the whereases.
So
So
Alec, is that what CTONS has?
In the first whereas clause, it reads, Warrant Article 21 proposes a general bylaw that would require the select board to appoint a 9-person commission, etc. And then they go on to clarify that in response to the article, this is an amended motion. So my sense was CTONS included that to be provide a description of the process through which the article is evolved. But that's my reading of it. So I think it clarifies in the other whereas that it is no longer proposing a bylaw.
I mean, I guess it's a resolution. It's okay. It's a little confusing to put in the record.
Neil Gordon has a comment.
Yeah, I would suggest that if the warrant article proposed it when the warrant article was filed, and if the warrant article, if it's no longer proposed, let's clear up the confusion and say that it proposed. The warrant article is only the warrant article as it's filed, when it's filed.
And so that Scrivener correction would then just be in that whereas clause, striking the S at the end of proposes and replacing with a D to make it past tense.
That's as simple as I can make it as one letter.
I think the petitioners would support that.
Thank you. Let's go back to our vote. If I can find it. So I see from the chat that Michael Berger voted yes. Ben Birnbaum votes yes. Harry Bors.
Yes.
Cliff Brown.
Yes.
Anthony Buono.
Yes.
John Doggett.
Yes.
Catherine Florio.
Yes.
David Mark.
Yes.
I got you. Thank you,
She just
Kath.
voted for me, I guess, so I'll go with her yes.
Okay, very good. Neil Gordon.
To avoid a floor fight over this change, I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Susan Granoff.
Yes.
Perry Grossman.
Yes, with the assumption that the explanation doesn't need to be changed to be put in past tense about the general bylaw. Because it starts out, warrant article 21 would by general bylaw create a 9-member commission.
You mean like would have?
You're right.
Yeah, I think, Alec, if you could add that to your Scrivener's edit.
Yes, will
Thank
do.
you.
And it would be would have created a D on
Yes.
create.
Would have create, now it reads, instead of reading warrant article 21 would by general bylaw create, it now reads warrant article 21 would have created by general bylaw a 9-member commission.
So
Right.
not to throw a wrench, but if you continue reading in the article, so in that explanation, I think if you're going to make those changes up top, you might need to make some changes into another paragraph where CTONS sort of comes around and says, and because of these things, we recommend, a resolution. So they're sort of, again, they're starting with sort of like, here's what it is, and here's all the discussion that happened, and because of this, we therefore recommend. And all I'm saying is, we're going to play wordsmith up top. We need to make sure that it logically follows in its reading down below. So
But we're not voting the explanation.
that's true. We are not. We don't have to worry about it at this moment in time.
Okay, thank you. Let's try this again.
I'll only ask if anyone wants to change their vote.
I'm not even good. I'm not going there. Alec Lebovitz.
Yes.
Pam Lodish.
Yes.
Jocelyn Murphy.
Yes.
Danelle O'Neill.
Yes.
Linda Olson Pelkey.
Yes.
Fran Perler.
Yes.
David Pollock.
Yes.
And Christine Westfall.
Yes.
Thank you. By a vote of 19 to 0. The advisory committee recommends favorable action on the resolution, warrant article 21, the resolution regarding thriving youth and children as amended by CTONS.
May I say something, Harry? Just personal.
Sure.
That is the respect and the cooperation that folks showed among the petitioners, CTONS, and the subcommittee, I think is an admirable example of how you do business in government. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you so much. Sigal, thank you for coming. And so now we move on to our last business of the evening, warrant Article 30, resolution regarding moderators committee form of government. Perry, believe you're handling this for the ad hoc subcommittee?
Yes, I am, with the disclaimer that I don't know how little Perry Grossman got stuck in the middle of this godforsaken topic. All right, so the advisory committee ad hoc subcommittee met on warrant Article 30 to extend, which is to extend the moderators committee on forms of government. And the subcommittee recommended no action by a vote of 4-0 to 0. So warrant Article 30 is a resolution that urges town meeting to direct the moderators committee on forms of government to extend its deadline for producing a final report, produce a collective committee report, including majority and minority views if appropriate, and critically evaluate each other's contributions, and to allow for replacement of members unwilling to continue. The Moderators Committee was created as a result of the passage of warrant Article 18 at the November 2023 special town meeting. The petitioners of that noted that discussions about Brookline's form of government had increased, and they believed there was insufficient knowledge of the various forms of government and wanted a moderators committee to review, evaluate, and report on that. And town meeting voted in support of the resolution, and a committee was appointed in February 2024 by moderator Kate Poverman. The committee was charged with objectively and fairly evaluating the positive and negative aspects of the forms of government in Massachusetts, including but not limited to examining how changing the forms of government could impact staffing requirements, and holding one or more public hearings, optionally recommending one or more alternate forms of government for Brookline, and presenting a preliminary report with findings and recommendations, and submitting a final report with findings and recommendations to town meeting and posting it online by May 1st, 2025. So the committee held 16 public meetings from February 2024 to April 2025 and 2 public hearings. The committee engaged in research into various forms of municipal government in Massachusetts and produced 9 research reports and a final report of the committee and 3 memos which make recommendations to town meeting. The final report was presented at the committee's last meeting on April 30th, and then the committee then dissolved. In the discussion, the petitioners of warrant Article 30 expressed dissatisfaction with the process and the output from that moderators committee, and they felt that the committee was dysfunctional and failed to objectively evaluate forms of government. Mr. Rosenthal, the lead petitioner of Article 30, highlighted that the committee's final output was a collection of individual memos rather than a unified committee report. And he and Mr. Gordon argued that the output did not equip voters with the information needed to make informed decisions. And so they emphasized the importance of a thorough, unbiased evaluation. And subcommittees members noted that the committee was not charged with informing the voters, but rather to report to town meeting. And members noted that there are numerous ways for voters to become better informed about potential changes to forms of government. During public comment, Neil Wyshynski said that he had recused himself from hearing warrant Article 30 at town meeting, and that he was speaking at the subcommittee meeting as a member of the public rather than as a moderator. And Mr. Wyshynski urged careful review of the committee's report and felt that the committee had fulfilled its charge. And the subcommittee discussion centered around the practicality of extending a dissolved committee, not around the quality of the committee's work or the process by which the committee executed it. So members also discussed removing or amending some of the resolve clauses in light of the committee's dissolution. However, the consensus was that with the committee dissolved, the article is no longer actionable. The warrant Article 30 ad hoc subcommittee voted 4-0 to 0 to recommend no action on warrant Article 30. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Marty, as the petitioner, we give you the ability to make brief comments. If the subcommittee report has missed anything, you'll be given an opportunity at the end of the debate to again make comments. So I will give you 5 minutes if you have any, up to 5 minutes if you have anything to add at this point in time.
I think I'm on. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, thank you. I got the subcommittee report about 2 hours ago, and I spent some time going through it. So what I'm going to do is try to go through that and highlight some things that I have some questions and disagreements about. Before I do, I want to make 4 very quick introductory comments. Number one is my bottom line I'm going to get to at the end is the petitioners. I've talked to some of them, and what we're going to do is not move the article. We're going to move for a referral to a new moderators committee. The second thing, I want to thank the subcommittee for doing such fast work and getting out a report, which is generally very thorough. I just disagree with some of the facts and conclusions, but I especially appreciate, I assume Kelly had a role in this. I guess she's absent today, but my appreciation. Number 3 is the importance of this issue. This is the biggest existential threat to Brookline, not just government, but the community since the end of rent control. So that will color everything I'm saying and everything I've done for 5 months. And finally, I'm not going to belabor. I sent you all something objecting to Neil's thumb on the scale and saying I'm not here as moderator, I'm here as a citizen. I think that's frankly absurd. He's the one who appoints you. I think it was wrong for him to weigh in on this subject. So let me move on to the report, and some things I'll just mention briefly and get back to them afterwards. I'm using the executive summary and the written report. First, there is a mention at the beginning, the last bullet on the first page, allow for replacement of members. I'm going to get back to that at the end, but that's very important. It's resolve clause number 5. Secondly, I'm also going to get back later to the highlighting of the moderator's charge, objectively and fairly evaluating positive and negative aspects. The word I want to belabor there, and I'll get back to it later, is what does the word evaluate mean? I'm going to make a case, I think we've made it in Article 30, that the reports that are pro-city are not evaluations. They're just the opinions of 4 members of the committee, of the moderators committee, not your committee. Next, similarly, at the end of that first executive summary, I'll get back later to the non-actionable phrase. And I think that's just a bad conclusion, a mistake to say that. And I don't remember those words being used, but it doesn't matter. That's a pretty good caption for what the subcommittee voted, non-actionable. Okay, now here we get to some more substance and things that I'll talk about at a little more length, but trying not to be longer than what you said. The top of the, right after this executive summary, the ad hoc committee held a public hearing on April 30th. This is by my page 2, the top. That date is important because that is the date that just, I think, 2 or 3 hours beforehand, the committee voted to dissolve. And that is the first I saw the 3 main reports that they're issuing. It's the so-called committee report, which doesn't talk about much except procedure, a wonderful report by Sandy Gatsby about retaining our town government, and a report by the four pro city, by the way, signed on by David Mark Goldstein, who did a wonderful job on this committee for many months, worked very hard, and I appreciate it. Then the report by the four pro city people. I had never seen those before. I don't think the subcommittee had seen them, and that's all the more reason I'm going to ask you not to take a vote today. So let me move on to the next point is the allowing for replacement of members. Well, all right, I'm going to wait on that resolve clause number 5. Then getting down to the committee was charged with, and I highlighted the word objectively and fairly evaluating negative, positive, negative aspects. One thing that the 4 pro city people almost entirely ignored is 1/2 of our government, which is the executive branch. As you all know, we have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and unlike the state or the federal government, we don't have a judicial branch. So half of our form of government, not in terms of people or in terms of numbers, is the executive branch. They told that if you look at their report, it talks about the representative town meeting. They don't talk at all about the executive branch. The only people who talk about it are the Sandy and David Mark report, which highlights very good things about our executive branch. So to the extent they were supposed to evaluate our form of government, even if you accept the word evaluate, which I don't, they opined on our form of government, and all they opined on was the legislative branch.
Marty, it's been 6 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will give you one more to conclude
Okay.
with the realization that you will have a shot at the end.
Okay, thanks. So the report then talks about 9 reports. Actually, 3 of them are largely irrelevant, by Larry Lessig. Wonderful, thoughtful reports that really are not helpful for reasons that I don't have time to get into. And finally, let me conclude by getting to the bottom line here. The committee was fixated on the fact that the Moderators Committee intended to make this moot by dissolving. I think that's a lot of baloney. I think that's their way of saying town meeting is irrelevant. I think resolve clause number 5 was a viable solution, but to clear up any confusion, we're now going to not move the article, and we're going to move for referral to a new Moderators Committee, which I think resolve clause number 5 would have done. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. David Mark, let's go to the list.
You're first, Harry.
No, actually, I think Neil Gordon is first.
Well, if so, he didn't send it to everyone. He just sent it to you.
He sent it to everybody at 7:40. I'm on the list at 7:43.
Okay.
So Neil, go ahead.
So if that's without dispute,
I
David Mark,
apologize,
thank you,
Neil.
Harry, thank you. One quick comment on the subcommittee's report. I spoke for 5 minutes in summarizing some detailed descriptions of the so-called work of the Moderators Committee on Form of Government. None of the flavor of my remarks is even suggested in reducing that to dissatisfaction, essentially, with process and function, which is the extent of what the subcommittee said about my report. I spoke for 5 minutes. That said, Marty talked about the dissolution of the committee. And in fact, the committee, one committee member in writing to the chair, I believed, said, we'll vote to end the work of the committee. We'll vote to dissolve, right? In part to avoid criticism and make Article 30 moot. It was intended, right, to make Article 30 moot without discussing Article 30 at the moderator. When I talk about the committee now, it's the Moderators Committee on Form of Government. So that's as stated by a member. It's a partial purpose for ending is to shut down the will of town meeting. And it's the second time that the committee has essentially shut down the will of town meeting. I'll get to that in a minute. The committee's charge was clear. It was evaluation by the committee, What was the essence, though, of a committee chaired by Jeffrey Berry, Professor Berry, was that the process of the committee didn't do that. It didn't involve a lot of evaluation by the committee. And what Professor Berry did was he assigned the various members of the committee homework assignments, doled them out. The committee members agreed. They went and they did their work. They came back. They gave a report to the class. The committee individually gave their report to the committee. There was little discussion by the committee. There was never a vote to accept. And then next week or the next meeting, they did another one. They entertained a series of experts, came in, had chats. There was no little, if any, discussion by the committee, no vote. And at the end, if you read the committee's report, and I'm going to go through this, and we'll have comments on that before too long. They talk about, we did and they did. Individual members of the committee did. Individual committee members did their homework, made their report, little discussion by the committee. At the end, Professor Berry stapled them all together and attached them to what's essentially a cover memo. The committee didn't evaluate. That's not what town meeting asked for, and that's not what their charge suggested that they do. That's a total, I'll take away total. It's a disrespect to the will of town meeting. That's not what town meeting asked for. That's not what the charge asked for. And the committee, having not done that, then dissolves in order to avoid criticism of the very work they failed to do. And they actually have in writing from a member, we will dissolve to avoid the criticism, and I'll add parenthetically, of the work that we didn't do. And what we'll do is we'll make Marty Rosenthal's, which they didn't say, Article 30 moot, because that's just more criticism of the committee. They want us to go away. They want town meeting to go away. That's not fair. The will of town meeting is, pardon the expression, the will of town meeting. I could talk on this for an hour. I won't. I'll leave it at that. But to be clear, I have undertaken to work with Marty to come up with a substitute motion in the form of a referral motion to a new committee. And I don't know exactly what that language will be, but it will be a referral of the subject matter to a new committee to undertake some work to reach a conclusion that the Moderators Committee on Form of Government was asked to do and didn't do. Thank you.
Harry Friedman.
So I received an email this afternoon from Sandy Gadsby, who was a member of the Moderators Committee, and he asked me to convey his thoughts, which I will do. So these are from Sandy Gadsby. The Moderators Committee concluded its business on April 30 and voted to dissolve. I'm sure I speak for my fellow colleagues in stating that none of us will do any further work as committee members, no matter what town meeting does with Article 30. So this article is moot. There's no committee whose term can be extended. With regard to the work of the Moderators Committee, I call your attention to approximately 100 pages of reports that the committee issued. Here's what I wrote as part of my final report. Work of the Moderators Committee, readers of the committee reports will have noted the accusation by a committee member that the work of the committee was stymied in some fashion and that the committee essentially failed to carry out her interpretation of its charge from the town moderator. It is true that the committee faced difficulties owing to the strong bias of many of its members, the unavailability of research assistants and town resources, and the essential complexity of the task before it. However, I firmly believe that under the able chairmanship of Jeff Barry, the committee was as successful as I had dared hope, and that it has made valuable contributions to the important discussion of the future of our town's governance. Please convey my remarks to the advisory committee, which I am doing despite the fact that I really don't agree with them, but I said I would convey them. So let's go back to the list, but it is my intention, given that I'm not really seeing any more people on the list as of right now, that while I will take a motion for no action from the ad hoc subcommittee, I will also entertain a motion to defer consideration, to table this until a later date.
We have Harry Boris with a comment.
Sure. So I actually appeared before this committee briefly. I went up there with Dennis. We both spoke. I think we both came there with a number of thoughts and a number of things to say. We were not asked about any of that. We weren't really asked for our thoughts. We were asked more mechanical questions. There was one opportunity with a question that came up that I was able to respond a little bit and sneak something in, because at that point there seemed to be a focus on the notion of efficiency. And I pointed out that efficiency and effectiveness are not necessarily the same thing and can work at cross purposes. And you really sort of have to look at the structure of the government and how it plays out, whether it's a town meeting form of government, or whether it's a city form of government. But we really had limited opportunity to make our opinions known. It was pretty clear at that point that there were a couple of members who were former municipal employees who made no secret they're very pro-city. And if I'm a town manager, I suspect I would as well. Some other members who just were not familiar with the town meeting form of government. So I would have thought there would have been a little more work to kind of elucidate some of the issues around town meeting form of government. As to the notion of this being non-actionable because they have dissolved, I will say on that count, I'm a bit disappointed that there wasn't at least extended to town meeting a courtesy to see what town meeting thought. You can wait for town meeting to say yay or nay, we want to hear more, we don't, and town meeting may very well say, this is fine, thank you very much. But sort of when you're on the eve of it and you know a vote's coming before town meeting to sort of pull the rug out from town meeting, as I say, I found that a bit disappointing. Now I'm hearing that the petitioners are going to look to do this as a referral. We don't know what that referral is. I don't have any particular opinion on that, but I guess the question I put out, and maybe Harry sort of touched on that a bit, is would it make more sense for us to table this until we knew what it is we're going to vote on? Because if they're going to refer it, we're going to have to take it up again anyway, take up the referral before a town meeting. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Christine Westfall.
I recognize that the original intent apparently was to form a committee that would make a recommendation, yay or nay, about city or town to town meeting. I'm not sure that that's going to be terribly helpful. I don't know what you refer, so probably tabling is a good idea on this. I don't think that the committee was necessarily, the committee that dissolved itself was necessarily disrespectful of town meeting. I think it felt that it was not prepared to make a yay or nay decision on a form of government, and that appears to be what the original proponents were looking for. I'm not sure any committee is going to be able to make a yay or nay. on what kind of government we should have that would be effective. What the committee did do was it provided information, some information about certainly what the advantages of a city government would be. But I'm not sure that this is the horse we should be beating.
Okay, Alec?
Thanks, David Mark. A couple thoughts on this. One, I have served on a moderators committee in the past and chaired one, and I imagine a number of other folks in this body have done as well. And I just want to recognize one, that serving in that process requires a remarkable amount of work. And as we heard from the meeting schedule and regimen of this moderators committee, I think it would be hard to question that there wasn't a tremendous amount of work and volunteer effort put into this by the members of this moderators committee. And I have to say, in a volunteer form of government, and one that frequently turns to such panels to conduct in-depth explorations of complex issues, I worry about a chilling effect resulting from harassment of these groups. And I use the word harassment because in the packet provided to us this evening, the petitioner describes himself as having harassed this committee. And that concerns me. And I think we'd be remiss not to have that as context in reviewing this vote for dissolution. I also want, in looking at the specific language of the charge, they were charged to deliver a report by May 1st of 2025. They did this. They were charged to objectively and fairly evaluate the positive and negative aspects of our form of government. They've done that. In my estimation, they have a report stating both of the options available to Brookline. They have to hold one or more public hearings. They held two. They may recommend one or more alternative forms of government for Brookline. They've done so. So from where I'm sitting, I see a moderators committee that's fulfilled its charge, and it's done so in a timely manner as set out by the resolution that created them. And I really feel we're, in a sense, beating a dead horse here. And from my perspective, I am ready to vote no action on this tonight. I don't really see a further purpose to this. I don't think reconstituting another moderators committee is the way to go here. I understand the petitioners disagree with some of the recommendations or the findings of this moderators committee, but I don't see that as a reason to then reconstitute another board, basically reformulating the same committee to look for another answer. That doesn't seem productive to me. It doesn't seem like the best use of our very valuable and limited volunteer time and expertise. And as I said, I intend to vote no action this evening. Thank you.
Neil Gordon, was that a two-finger that you put in the chat?
Yeah, I'll
Wanna come
call it a
back later?
two-finger response specifically to Alex. Number one, the harassment word, that was a word used. The harassing person is Marty Rosenthal. That's a word that was used by Sandy Gatsby in the email in order to stop, I didn't say harassment, but maybe I should have, that to stop the criticism and harassment by Marty Rosenthal, I clearly identified, and his, I don't remember the word that Sandy used, cronies, that was his, I don't remember the word, that was me, right? Obviously, Neil Gordon. That came from former moderator Gatsby. That's not Marty's description of what he was doing. That's Sandy Gatsby's description. And let me just add, and then I'll have one more very quick point, that one person's, criticism, this is a public body. You agree to chair a public body, you agree to serve on a public body and have public meetings. You're fair game for criticism of your work or lack of work, and that's what they heard. And if they can't take that heat, then volunteer or otherwise, just move aside, please, and let somebody do the work. And I got several comments, by the way, from one committee member who was saying, we're volunteers. We put in a lot of work. One of the attendees at that meeting sent me, a private chat and said, this is not going to sell well on the members of the moderators of the advisory committee sitting here listening to this. You know, excuse me, you volunteered for a committee. They did how much work? One meeting a month? Please. I'll make one more point, and this is important to Alex's comment. The work of the committee, the reports, the conclusions, right? The writings, the papers, none of that is the work of the committee. It is all the work of individual members. None of it was accepted. None of it was vetted. None of it was discussed in any meaningful fashion. Those are individual papers prepared by individual members of the committee, and to describe them as otherwise is simply not factual.
Linda Pelkey.
Thank you. So my question is, has any other board, committee, commission, et cetera, taken a position on this warrant article yet? Has there been votes anywhere?
My understanding is that the select board voted 3-1 in favor of warrant article 30. I don't think they've taken up the motion to refer yet. CTOS,
There is no motion to refer yet.
right. So, and CTOS did not take it up as far as I know. So that's where we stand on that.
Okay. I have to say that I pretty much agree with what Alex said about this. I do think, I mean, I can't recall any other moderators committee where people started saying, we don't like the results. We don't like the way they did their work. We question everything about what they did, and we want a do-over. You know, and I'm thinking about committees like the Moderators Committee on Parking. And, you know, the moderator assigns these folks to do the work, and they, in their best judgment, attempt to do what is in that charge. And I think that Sandy's statement made a lot of good points in terms of what resources the committee had at their disposal. And I'm not sure, you know, they didn't have researchers. They didn't have a travel budget. They didn't have, you know, money to buy research papers or anything like that. So I think that what we're seeing is people don't like the results of the committee's work. And that's fair. That's a fair criticism. But to elevate that conclusion into this means we have to do it all over again, I really question it. And I really question that if the results had been otherwise, whether we would be having the same discussion. In my view, they did the work the way they felt it needed to be done, and they dissolved. If you want to criticize their work, that's fine. I don't think we would have ever gotten what the petitioners have in their mind that they think it should have been. I mean, how would you go about evaluating the effectiveness? I can't imagine that. I don't know how to do that. I mean, somebody could come up with some interesting comparisons about, you know, the pace of change or how much legislation passes or, you know, fiscal outcomes or something like that. But is that really an objective comparison? I don't know. So I guess I too am willing to vote for no action tonight. I don't know that it's going to be productive to try to have a do-over. You've heard from the members of this committee who want nothing to do with it over again. So, yeah, I just am not sure that would be productive at all. So I'm going to vote for no action. Thank you.
There's no more people in the chat, Harry.
Okay. Then Marty, how much time do you think you need to add any other comments?
In 50 years in court and in Brookline, I've never been accurate on my time predictions. So I checked off and made some notes of things I want to respond to. I'll be very quick on each one. I'm hoping maybe 3 minutes, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to give you 5.
Thank you.
You start.
That's what's happened in court. I've always been wrong on my own predictions. So Sandy made reference to 100 pages. There are only 2 reports that are worth anything, and they're both by him. And then he made reference in his whatever it was, an email, that they've been accused of being stymied. That was one of the Pro City, the vice chair, Catherine Donaher, that said they've been accused of being stymied. I've never said the word stymied, and I'm frankly not sure what she was talking about. That's in her separate report, one of the new ones that came out the day of the subcommittee hearing. Harry made a wonderful comment about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. I really welcome that. And the word I've used for what Harry said about the committee's attitude towards this article is they've had disdain for town meeting and disdain for this pending article. They really have never talked about it. They had it on the agenda and the chair announced, we're not going to talk about that. So he pretty much took it off the agenda. Christine made a comment about recommendations. The warrant article 18 in 2023 said they may make recommendations if they want to, but that was not the thrust of it. The thrust of it was the language that's in the subcommittee report here, evaluate the pros and cons. And that's what we questioned, that they did not evaluate the pros and cons. Getting to a couple of both Alec and Linda's comments, and that gets to the word evaluate. This committee is the hardest working body in Brookline government for my 40 years I've been here. I'm not just you folks, but all your predecessors in my 40 years. This committee has a capacity and always has been very diligent about studying things, sometimes nitpicking to death. I really wish that some of you, including especially Linda and Alex, had really looked at these reports. I'm going to read you 2 sentences from Professor Berry's report on so-called civic engagement. All right, in summary, Brookline has a high degree of civic engagement. This is in one of our appendices and one of the reports, but is not out of the ordinary due to our structure of government. Representative town meeting has nothing to do with that. And then he goes on to say, is town meeting a culprit, in bold print, ? Although our civic engagement generally is strong in Brookline, there may be a negative connection between our structure of government and a particular type of activism, as representative town meeting may work against neighborhood organizing. I mean, we had a word in the Brookline High locker room for those kind of opinions. I'm not going to say it publicly. It's just, anyway, the best I can do is the word baloney. So, and Linda says there's no precedent. The reason there's no precedent is in my 40 years, and that started with town meeting, advisory committees, select board, CTOS. I don't ever remember a moderator's committee this bad in terms of the results. The people are great, the people are smart, but there is no evaluation by the Pro City people. Those reports are not evaluation, they're just opinions. Chair Berry at one point said Brookline lacks leadership and contrasted us with Cambridge, where he credited leadership with getting Kendall Square built, and he pointed for leadership from the Speaker of the House, John McCormick from South Boston. So that's the quality of stuff that we're talking about, and I wish you would all look at it, including people like Linda and Alec. This is not just our opinion that we don't like the result. I'm talking about the trees, not the forest. The forest was a lot of bias. Sandy is biased, but if you read his reports, they're excellent. And I don't think you'll find anything that you disagree with. But if you read the other things we've highlighted, you'll find a lot of what I said before, so-called baloney. And I do urge that you do nothing tonight and wait until there's a referral motion, because I think the subcommittee could have used where resolve clause number 5, but they didn't really talk about it at length, but apparently they didn't find it clear enough that this could just be new members. We never thought when we filed this in February that we could do involuntary servitude for members and make them stay on the committee. And we put in there number 5 almost as a throwaway. If any members don't wish to continue, that's fine. And Assistant Moderator John Karen could appoint new people. I knew already then that Neil Wyshynski had a problem. He was treasurer of the city charter campaign, and he should not have been involved in this. And the last thing is that the report says, and misinterprets, frankly, that 2 members of the committee had to resign, referring to, I don't know if Mark Levy ever resigned. He was on the committee until at least February or March, but he has been ill, and referring also to Elizabeth Childs a year ago. And Moderator Wyshynski replaced them with 2 other people. That was after Elizabeth resigned, and Neil put on 2 pro-city people that are active in Brookline for everyone. So that was just one more editing mistake that was definitely based on Chair Berry's bias. But in any event,
Marty, I need to cut you off. So
I think I've pretty much gone through everything. Thank you very much for everybody for listening.
thank you. So I will take a motion from the ad hoc subcommittee. And I think the clearest way to do it is, as they stated, for no action. Perry, are you making that motion?
Sure. The ad hoc subcommittee recommends no action on warrant Article 30.
Okay, and is anyone interested in moving, tabling this?
Yeah,
I'll make that motion in anticipation of a substitute motion from the petitioners. I believe I'll move tabling to I'll say a future date, and I will as a dear friend of the petitioner work with him diligently to make that date as soon as possible.
And
I'll second that, Harry.
Thank you.
Because since we take positions on everything, and if there is going to be a motion coming before town meeting, we're going to have to deal with the updated motion at some point. So let's just do it at once in the future.
Okay, thank you. Before I start to share, are there any comments on the tabling motion that someone wants to make? Seeing none, I'm going to share my screen.
All right, could you just clarify the language on that again? For tabling.
So I have moved the table further action on warrant Article 30 until a future date.
Okay.
And I guess it's not part of this. I will remind people, town meeting starts on May 27. It is now May 7, so it's another almost 3 weeks. So if you are in favor of tabling, we will vote on that first. Vote yes. If you are opposed to tabling, vote no. And if we do not table, we will then take a vote on the main motion. Michael Berger, to table.
No.
No. Ben Birnbaum.
Yes.
Yes. Harry Boers.
Yes.
Yes. Cliff Brown.
No.
No. Anthony Buono.
Yes.
Yes. John Doggett.
Yes.
Yes. Catherine Florio.
Yes.
Yes. David Mark Goldstein.
So I do have a conflict of interest, but I don't think voting to table something would constitute a conflict. If anybody disagrees, I will abstain, but I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Neil Gordon,
Yes.
Susan Granoff,
Yes.
Perry Grossman.
No.
No. Alec Lebovitz?
No.
No. Pam Lodish,
Yes.
Jocelyn Murphy,
Noting that I'm a co-petitioner, yes.
Danelle O'Neill,
Same as what Jocelyn said, and yes.
thank you. Lindolson Pelkey,
No.
no. Fran Perler,
Yes.
David Pollock,
No.
no. Christine Westfall,
No.
no. By a vote of 12 to 7 to 0, the advisory committee is recommending tabling further action on warrant Article 30 until a future date. Thus, we will not get to the main motion tonight. That pretty much concludes our business for the evening. I believe, although I don't want to be held to this, that our next meeting is probably on Monday, May 19, for a discussion of warrant articles 14 and 15, accommodations, zoning bylaw changes regarding reasonable accommodations. David, is that still the plan?
That is, and if I can just briefly say that this will be, the subcommittee is meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for a third time to discuss these articles. And I would encourage anyone who's available to get a jump on our discussion, because they're complex, for the 19th, which is, getting pretty late. But even if you don't come to our subcommittee meeting on the 19th, tomorrow morning, Mark Penzel has put together very thoughtful minutes of the two previous meetings, which are available. They're posted either to minutes or maybe to the agenda for tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any announcements?
Harry, I think I sent you an email. We're going to have some Article 2 collective bargaining things coming our way, apparently.
Okay.
I have not seen them yet, but they appear to be just simple pay raises for the next fiscal year or for the last fiscal year.
So Christine, I guess I would suggest that you maybe you quiz the other two members of your subcommittee and set a date as soon as possible, just so we can get it out of the way.
Yeah, no, I've got to see the memos before we go there. I've just gotten an informal email right now.
Right. Maybe you can
I'll try following up.
follow up with Ann Braga. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're not meeting again till the 19th?
We have no current intention to meet until the 19th.
Wow.
I believe the only outstanding issues are warrant articles 14 and 15 on accommodation, warrant article 2 on collective bargaining, as Chris just to which Chris just referred, and now the tabling of warrant article 30, which I guess we will figure out. I'll discuss with Dennis whether we want to refer that, table that until the 19th, or whether we want to do that at some point when we meet at the high school.
There also might be some budget adjustments at some point.
Yes, there might be. Thank you. So with that being said, regarding a question that just came up, we could do warrant article 2 on the 19th, assuming the subcommittee gets its information and meets on time. Or we could do warrant article 2, the collective bargaining, when we hit the high school. That remains to be determined. Thank
Harry,
you.
can I ask a question about meeting at the high school?
Yeah.
Is there an option for hybrid at all for that?
I do not believe so. They stick us in a classroom that I do not believe has remote capability. And Lisa's telling me that's correct. Lisa and the school administrators and I have gone back and forth regarding where they stick us in the high school. I have requested tables and desks that do not pose a tripping hazard like the last one did.
Right.
It remains to be seen whether they have managed to satisfy our request, but given the number of empty classrooms in the high school at night, one might have thought that this was a pretty simple request, and one might have been wrong. So that's where it sits right now. So I'm afraid there really is no hybrid solution to this.
I'll just say that the town also has OWL, which is a little coffee pot sized thing that they put on the middle of a table. And it can be hooked up to a television and do hybrid that way. So if we could get a television or a room with a television, we could take the OWL from town hall and use it there. The sixth floor knows how to set it up.
Lisa, could you possibly investigate that and see if that's, thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, David. With that, I'm putting an end to this meeting. I thank you all for coming, and we'll see you on the 19th, if not before. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.